Hi, my name is Graham Lee. I lead strategic growth for BlueSpring. Welcome to the Out Loud podcast. I am here with Phillip Palaveev, who is an entrepreneur, who is an author, who is a national speaker, and he owns the business, the Ensemble practice. So thank you so much for being here, Phillip.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction, and thank you for involving me in this conversation. It's a fascinating conversation.
Well, so what I'm hoping you and I can talk about today is what actually drives growth in advisory firms. But before we jump into that, maybe you just would give us a little of your background. I think it'd be a little fascinating on why you started Ensemble practice, like what was the thing that you saw in the industry?
Very much. Gosh, you and I have known each other for a long time.
I think
15 years or so. Yeah, I was going to say that. And for the last 30 years or so, I've been spending all of my time and most of my energy in the advisory industry. And it's interesting you called me an entrepreneur. That's a word that gets used a lot. But that's really why I wanted to work with advisors, because they are true entrepreneurs. I literally observe people start a business with a spreadsheet and a laptop.
Well, isn't that how you started it?
That's how
on a box.
Yeah, that's how my partner Stuart Silverman actually started his business, and I wrote the business plan.
Yeah.
I wisely waited for the business to become profitable before I joined. Stuart was the real entrepreneur in that case. But I fell in love with how advisors turn a spreadsheet and an idea into a real business, and then gradually that business has impact on so many people. Partners, employees, clients, and these days even investors, communities. So it's been fascinating to watch what used to be one person with literally a laptop and a few clients turn into a flourishing organization. And there are so many of those stories, and so many of those stories today are part of the BlueSpring community. The BlueSpring community today involves a lot of my friends, and of course my former partner Stuart, and many colleagues that I have learned to appreciate and enjoy over so many years. But over that many years, I think just kind of focusing on that aspect of starting a business and making it flourish has learned me to most of all respect how difficult it is. They say that MBAs never start a business because if you really analyze it, it makes no sense. And it's very true. In order to start a business, you got to take that leap of faith to believe that that's going to work out. And you can create something out of nothing and then hold on to the course really hard because it's a bumpy ride.
And that's absolutely right. The amount of stories I've heard about, the leap of faith and advisors like literally wondering how they're going to fill their fridge or in the shower, like what did I do, right? That is real. And those that are successful actually made it through that most difficult part.
Yeah. And then the next difficult part is, and there's a favorite quote of mine, I think it belongs to John Adams, one of the founders of this country, and he says, "We will be soldiers so that our sons can be farmers, so that their sons can be poets." So sort of notice the transition of focus and the transition of skills from the survival skill, from the fighting, to the more systematic, more patient, but much more bountiful farming. And I think that's part of our conversation today. The way in which you grow and behave when you're a startup, when an entrepreneurial organization, when there's 5, 6, 7 of you, is different than the way in which you behave and grow when you're a large organization with 50, 60, 700, 800 people and growing.
So let me just stop you right there for a second, because one of the things I love that you do is your analogies are just so good. It helps everybody understand and the concepts that you're trying to teach that are so elegant. So I hope we hear more of those. But the other thing I love about what you do isn't just about your experience with advisors. It's a data-driven approach too. So I would love to hear from a data standpoint, but as well as from your consultant side, what are firms doing today or have been doing that is driving the outsized growth?
Mm-hmm. It's very inherent in the nature of entrepreneurs to be optimists, like I said. And my wife used to make fun of me that as soon as Ensemble crossed 2.1 million in revenue, I immediately started telling people that it was a $3 million business. It's just kind of it's a survival mechanism. But it also is a mechanism that helps you survive but may hurt you because you may have a lot of misconceptions about how the business actually is performing. And very often when you look at the data, you may realize that what you held as a belief is either wrong or you just did not realize the magnitude of the challenge that you're experiencing. And in the last 3 years, that was very evident in the growth data. When you look at the new client acquisition, or whatever you want to call that process, sometimes we call it client acquisition, sometimes simply we say going out and getting more clients, but whatever you call business development, That has been the challenge in the last 3 years, that the organic growth rate of new business development, new clients coming into the firm, has been around 3%. While at the same time, most firms aspire to grow at 10%. So it's not a problem if you wanted to grow at 2% and you grew at 3%, but it's certainly a problem if you wanted to do 10 and you ended up at 3%. So most organizations are disappointed with their growth, but sometimes they comfort themselves by looking at the P&L where they see 15, 16, 17% increase in revenue. Unfortunately, most of that is the market. Yeah. And this is really the uncomfortable truth in the data, is that we have grown a lot and we have become very profitable in the strength of the market, but we can't take full credit for that. We take some of the benefit of that, but not the full credit of that. And we need to answer the very difficult question of, can we sustainably, notice that word, systematically, another important word, continue to grow? In the next phase of evolution of these firms, when it's not just about survival, in the next phase of the growth of these firms, when the denominator, the current size of the firm, is already in the billions. It's easier to grow when you have 100 million, right, and 10% is 10 million. That may very well be one client. When you're at $1 billion, growing by 10% is 100 million. That's the size of the firm you used to be. And now you have to create systems, now you have to create processes, now you have to assign responsibilities and accountabilities. And that may not be in the nature of an entrepreneur. That's maybe an old dog learning new tricks, but that's the only way to go forward.
Yeah, I 100% agree. On the other side of it, what is holding some firms back where they've just stalled out, right? Like, you went high level on what it takes to grow, but those that feel like they've stalled out, like, what advice could you give them to kind of get them over that hurdle?
Probably the single biggest deterrent to growth is an over-reliance on the personal reputation of one or two people to create all of the new client relationships. Typically, in most advisory firms, one or two people are kind of famous, in the sense that in the local market, they're very well known. In the target market, they tend to have a name. Everybody knows who they are. And after having done this for 30, 40 years in their career, they tend to attract a lot of new business. They tend to attract clients. And the firm has become dependent, relying on the skill of one or two people to create these connections. And unfortunately, those one or two people are aging, and then someday they're gone. And when they're gone, all of a sudden, it's like a good football team, but can't score. That happens in soccer sometimes, happens in football, happens in basketball. You play great defense, but you can't score. And it's tough to win games like that. So advisory firms have to really kind of make the conceptual and also practical transition from the reputation of a person to the reputation of a firm. A good friend of mine, Greg Friedman, an amazing entrepreneur, told me that the happiest day of his life was the day when he came to the office and he saw a client that he didn't personally know. He said, that's when I knew we were a real business, because somebody else brought a client into the firm and it wasn't me. It's the sense that somebody else is creating growth and it's not me. But that doesn't happen by osmosis, doesn't happen by itself. That entrepreneur has to basically intentionally transfer their personal reputation to the firm. So when the phone rings and you pick up, someone is not saying, hey, I want to talk to Phillip or Graham. They're saying, I want to talk to BlueSpring. I want to talk to your firm, and whoever you assign to work with me is probably highly qualified. That reputation transfer is very important, but very difficult. And sometimes I do it myself, get in the way. If you are the founder, I am the founder these days. I used to be G2, I used to be everything in a firm, and now suddenly I'm a founder. Sometimes our egos get in the way. We like to be popular, we like to be on stage, we like to be celebrated, we like to be talking to clients, we can't shut up. I am a good example of that. But it's time to do this and let somebody else talk.
Yeah, I totally agree. So at BlueSpring, we are looking for exactly kind of what you're describing, very highly performed firms that have the next generation, that has the system and the process, because that's what ultimately drives premium value, right? And so we've partnered together to take these businesses, but also, I'm not as good as analogies as you are, but it's a great fire that's already burning. We're just gonna throw gas on it and help, right? And so one of the ideas that you came up with most recently is your growth program. So I'd love for you to tell everybody about this new growth program that we've partnered in and then maybe some of the statistics you're already getting in a quarter's worth of data.
Very much. So we are super excited to be working with the very first class of our Growth Lab. And this is the BlueSpring Growth Lab program that we collaborate on. It currently comprises a team of 12 professionals that have raised their hand. They have volunteered to actually dedicate a year worth of time on becoming better business developers. And business development is a lot like being fit. I used to own a boxing gym, by the way. I'm a boxer, a very bad boxer, but I used to own a boxing gym together with a partner. I try to have partners, so there's someone who knows what they're doing. And that's one thing you learn in the gym, that at the end of the day, if you go to the gym and you spend an hour there and you leave sweating a lot, you will get fit, you will lose some weight, you will do well. Just keep going to the gym, keep doing what you need to do, and you will do well. And if you rely on gimmicks, if you like on shortcuts, if you do the 10-minute workout instead of 1 hour workout, you're just not going to get there. You're going to fool yourself and get a little frustrated. As a matter of fact, the fundamental principles of growth are very well known. It's not like we've invented something that wasn't well known. I think what we've done is most of all found a good way of communicate to next generation advisors, to G2 advisors, that first of all, growth is not scary. It's something you can do. Very often they've been told you just don't have the personality for it, you're not meant for it, you're an introvert, you're an extrovert. I'm an introvert too. I have no trouble speaking to people or speaking to you, or I'll be on a stage in front of 100 people very shortly after this. So number one challenge is just telling people that yes, you can, and you will become a good business developer. You may not be the best business developer ever, but everybody can be a good one. The second one is just finding methods of business development that are systematic and that do not rely or over-rely on personal reputations or doing things that are just not acceptable to G2s. Nobody knocks on doors anymore. Try cold calling, nobody picks up their phone anymore. Go golfing in the country club, and first of all, nobody goes to the country club anymore, at least that seems to be my understanding, but not everybody golfs. I'm very proud of never golfing in my life. I think there are good ways to develop new business without that requiring rejection, humiliation, or doing things you don't want to do. I think those things require very cleanly, clearly, in plain language, making it clear to clients what is it that you do and what is the problem that you solve. Financial advisors very often create a lot of confusion by using big concepts and big words like we create peace of mind, we are the captain of your financial future, we navigate the underwater rocks of taxes and perils in the market. Very dramatic pictures, but Graham, I've been working in this industry for 30 years. I have no idea what that means. Yeah. It's very abstract. I think instead, just simply say, look, we'll make sure you educate your children without having to work 10 more years until retirement. We can help you figure out if you can assist your mother-in-law with her financial needs without torpedoing your own financial plan. We can help you figure out who you can help with the extent of wealth that you've created and who you can't. These are the kinds of questions that bring clients to your door. People go to the doctor because something hurts, something's broken, something's bleeding and sneezing. And that's where financial advisors have to focus in. Identify a problem, tell people that that's a problem you can solve, do it in a plain language, and spend some time creating a reputation, both personal and business reputation. It's not a very complicated process, but it requires discipline, requires intention, and requires effort and clarity. And we find in this first class very quickly that within a quarter of doing the basics, but doing them clean and clear, we are already starting to see results. And the first result that comes is confidence. Walking into meetings feeling that I know what I'm doing, I know what's going to happen here, and this is not intimidating. The second sign, and this is the biggest challenge in the industry, is leads. We don't grow because we don't create enough opportunities to talk to people. Actually, statistically, there's the data. When there's a person in front of us that we can talk to, in other words, a prospect, we have a 67% probability of success. 2 out of 3 people in front of us become clients. If you're talking to someone, that person is yours to lose. The problem is we don't talk to enough people. We just simply don't generate enough leads. Advisory firms simply can't find enough people to talk to, so it's not a sales problem as much as it's a lead generation problem. We just, as an industry and as firms and individuals, we got to get more people interested in what we're doing. It's kind of like a band, so we don't overdo sports analogies, that Great songs, great stage presence, but just nobody knows about them. So we got to sell some tickets and invite more people. We got to get some of these songs on the radio, and then gradually the crowds will come.
That's right. And so this program was born out of our founders and G1s sharing with us, well, my G2 doesn't know how to sell. They came into this business and we've been giving them leads, but they've never had to learn. They didn't have to knock on doors. They didn't have to cold call. And so it is an industry-wide conundrum that we are solving together in other ways as well, but this is hopefully helps bridge that gap.
Yeah, and without arguing with you, I'll probably just clarify. The firms gave them clients. Most firms said, hey, we have a lot of clients. Graham, welcome to the firm. You're an amazing advisor. Very often they even said, you don't have to sell here. Dangerous statement.
Yeah.
And then it typically gave that advisor a lot of clients, 150, 200 clients to work with. So you personally never actually had to look for clients because the firm gave you many, which probably meant that you actually did not exercise that skill of attracting leads and developing leads into clients. As a matter of fact, that's the point I want to clarify. Firms should have given advisors leads rather than clients and taught them how to close leads first and then how to generate those leads. Unfortunately, they just kind of went to the end, gave them clients, and then too late realized that, oh, we've been serving you meals for 10 years. We never taught you how to cook, but now, you know, mom and dad are gone, and now you got to cook for yourself. My children are getting an introduction to that. Although I got to say, my children cook like you wouldn't believe. They've been cooking since a young age, so my children are actually very good at cooking. They're learning cleaning the dishes at the moment.
Now, we're getting off track.
Yeah, we are totally. So I hope my children don't see this, right?
So let me ask you this then. If you're a founder watching this, how does the founder help bridge that skill gap of going out and developing business for that G2? They're not in your program. They're running their own business, but yet they have that gap.
They're not in our program. What a mistake. No, joking. No. So listen, whether you do this on your own or whether you do this in our program, I think step number one is the realization as a founder that this is something that your people have to learn. I abuse analogies. I don't use them, I abuse them. But I remember teaching my son and my daughter to drive. And you know how it goes. You put your kid in a car, they get a permit, and they're 15 in the state of Washington, 15 and a half is enough. And they start driving while you're in there. So step one is do it with you present and them observing how you do it and also talking about it. This is what most firms do. Most firms invite their people to business development meetings. They talk to them about the process. The missing step is at some point in time, you got to give them the keys to the car and get out of that car and let them drive alone. In other words, for founders, the first realization is you got to get out of the way and you got to be open-minded that how they do business development may be different than how you have done it in the past. There are no badges of honor here. There's nothing, no other criteria other than what works, what is effective. We are going to do what's effective rather than what you used to do because that's the way you grow a firm. So 20 years ago, it may have been effective to network. And 20 years ago, it may have been very effective to golf. Today, the climate is different, the consumer is different, the clients we work with are different, the advisors who are doing the business development are different. So be open-minded to today's reality. And let the next generation find what works for them. Don't insist on them doing exactly what you used to do. That may no longer be working even for you, or it may be working for you, but it won't work for them. Allow them to explore new methods. Allow them to explore more content-driven and a little more indirect methods. It's not just talking to everybody about what you do. It is very often a function of infusing a lot of reputation into the market and letting consumers, on their own, come to the conclusion that they need an advisor, and then you are the right advisor. Saturate the market with more reputation. It's a little bit more longer-term process, but that reputation will sustain you for the rest of your career. If you try too quickly to turn contacts into clients, what you all get is only pushback.
Yeah.
That basically is the difference between approaching a stranger and saying, hey, do you want to come to dinner at my house tonight? Which is probably going to earn you a very, very strange glance. And approaching a friend and saying, hey, do you want to come to dinner tonight? The difference is the knowledge and the relationship you have with that person. Inviting strangers, kind of creepy. Inviting friends, very much welcome. So business development has to turn into, first of all, you are familiar to the people you're approaching. Second of all, you have a sense that they're interested in what you have to offer, and then it gets easy. A lot of firms make the mistake of declaring that everybody in the world is going to be their client as long as they have enough money, and that makes it very difficult to make those invitations. I think part of this is also allow yourself to focus, and then your invitations will stick. If you try to invite everyone at the party, you may end up looking a little creepy.
Well said, and you didn't mention it, but I have to mention it, but Phillip has a book that's called G2, and it's phenomenal, and that's the first step I would take. But let's say you're a founder now, and you're buying into this concept of being able to scale through bringing in that next generation, bringing in that G2, and being able to mentor and give them clients. Well, first you have to find that G2.
Yeah.
Where do you find a good next generation, and how do you keep them?
Surprisingly, the answer is exactly the same as if you were to ask, where do you find a good client? It's really interesting when you say we need to look for clients. Founders, CEOs, leaders intuitively understand what needs to happen. You got to go looking for them. You can't just wait for good clients to come to your door. You got to be proactive. Somehow when we turn that into you need good people, we become very reactive and say, okay, we'll post an ad and let's see who comes. And we tend to talk about, even sometimes I hear CEOs talk about, oh, the labor market is like this, the labor market is like that. One of the best CEOs I've ever worked with, Dale Yankee, Dowling and Yankee, today it's part of Corient. But Dale, he was amazing at behaving exactly like a college coach. He was a perennial recruiter. He always recruited good people. He went to forums and places looking for MBAs and CPAs and CFPs and CFAs. And whenever he saw talent, he wanted to know more about that talent and their life and their career, so that at one point in time, he found a reason to say, why don't you come and join us? Or evaluate a talented person. If you want to have a talented team, you got to recruit it. You got to go out looking for that talent, and you got to beg it to come. You got to, borrow it. You got to steal it. You got to negotiate with it. But keep looking for good people just as hard as you keep looking for good clients. It's the only way to do that. The people who happen to be available at any given point in time, they may or not be the best fit. There's a reason why they're available. Free agents rarely teams go to the Super Bowl because they hired a bunch of free agents. Yeah. Generally, you have to draft well and develop your own talent. And that's the answer, is keep hiring people at every level, but develop your people.
I generally see these leaders get discouraged pretty quickly because it seems like you have to kiss a couple frogs till you find the right one. So, what expectations can they expect when trying to go out and recruit this person?
It's patience is part of the game for sure. Being very clear on what you're looking for helps a lot. To this day, advisory firms very often recruit people rather than look at positions and who fits within a certain position. To this day, it's really always very interesting to me when someone describes their team, they describe people in terms of Graham, Phillip, Karen. They use names rather than positions.
Right.
They don't say lead advisor, senior advisor. They don't say portfolio manager or senior client services administrator. They use names, and they have personal relationships with people. That's how you run a relatively small firm where versatility matters and personal relationships rule. But in the second phase of an organization, it's also a function of what's the skill we're trying to bring in. So what's the type of the background that will create that skill, and what's the kind of person that brings the talent that we need, the specific talent for that position. And I think that's kind of the next level of recruiting, is being very specific of what exactly are we looking for, how can we recruit it, or how can we develop it, or both. And I think organizations kind of have to learn to develop in every dimension, that we don't just develop the client service skills, which are usually in an advisory firm very strong, but we also have to teach people business development. We don't know how, but programs like the one that BlueSpring has proposed to its members, its organizations, and that we run on your behalf are the answer. Create programs like that, internal and external. We need to also develop the leadership and management skills of our people, which means that we got to expose them to mentoring. We got to expose them to some leadership theory and practice as well. And I know we work on that quite a bit together. Yep. And then, of course, you also got to teach them how to derive operational excellence, how to execute business plans, how to execute client services, and that requires development as well. Some of these are dimensions that advisory firms do very, very, very well. But they have really shied away from the business development and growth dimension. It has become underdeveloped. Mm-hmm. And they have tried to develop in the management and leadership category and have made a lot of strides. But just as an industry, we need more experience there. We got to remember, most of our firms are less than 30 years old. We will never consider a 25, let's say 27-year-old individual mature. My son is 27. He is surprisingly mature for his age, but I diverge again. So we shouldn't expect advisory firms to be overly mature. It's actually exciting to kind of look back to the beginning. It's exciting that they're still entrepreneurs. It's exciting they're still trying to find out who they are. It's exciting that they're trying to figure out how they grow. And it's exciting to be part of this process. I love being together with the first class of the BlueSpring Growth Lab because it feels really like a lab, like we're inventing something together, right, that we're creating something together, and there's a sense of community. And that's my last part of this, is I've noticed this with my kids. Kids grow well together. They need other kids to play with, they need other kids to talk to, they need other kids to learn from. So that's my encouragement for all business owners, is also your employees are the same. They need to talk to each other, they need to talk to other employees, they need to learn from others, maybe across other firms. So that cross-pollination, that form of ideas that BlueSpring is creating is very valuable from that perspective. If you ask one person in solitude to become a business developer, they may get discouraged. Mm-hmm. Bring 12 of them together, and then all of a sudden there's this energy. Right. Runners say, if you want to run fast, run alone, but if you want to run far, run together. And those of you that have run a marathon, 5 or 6 for me, I am bragging, when you run with 30,000 other people like the New York Marathon, it's exciting. So find that place where you run together with others. Don't run alone. I think that helps a lot.
I totally agree. So let me just sum up a little bit of what you said.
If you can.
You need to understand the need of the business, right? And once you have that need, what does the organization then look like? And then you need job descriptions for that organization, and then you go try to find individuals that fit in those job descriptions, right? Because too often you connect with somebody and you hire that position, and now you're trying to fit them into the business, right?
Very much. In that dimension, absolutely. Without being overly bureaucratic and without being too much of a stickler and creating, overly complicated job descriptions. But at the end of the day, for every person you hire, ask yourself, what are the 1, 2, or 3 skills that we expect from that position? And then does this person actually fit our expectations? Yeah. And if your focus is turning towards growth, then start looking for people that will contribute to that growth, and start asking the question, what are the skills that will create growth? Yeah. What I want to argue with is the skill is not an extrovert, not at all. The skill is someone who is in tune with the client's emotions, is in tune with their needs, has their finger on the pulse of the community that they serve. And very often that's not a personality type. That is actually a choice and a commitment. Someone who wants to be part of something, has committed to that something, and now has learned so much about it that they have become an expert, they have become a specialist with all the resulting connections and all the resulting opportunities from that. To me, business development most of all comes from strategic commitment and discipline, much like fitness. Once you decide you're going to be fit and you end up in the gym 3 to 4 times a week, pretty much can't go wrong.
Right. It's amazing because it seems like firms are always wanting that bright idea, and the ideas are all out there. It's about execution and discipline and getting it done. So as we wrap, I'll ask you maybe 2 other questions. One is, if you're a founder watching this and you're wanting to create an organization that eventually has lifetime stability, has premium value, what's the one thing they should stop delaying doing, that they should do right now? Quit delaying it and go get it done.
Most of all, make growth one of your values as an organization. Don't hide it. Independent firms, for some reason, decided that growth is going to make us the same as the wirehouses, and we should hide away from it. Prioritize growth, but prioritize systematic growth. Not picking grapes one grape at a time, picking the bunches. Having a vineyard, that's how you make wine. So look for business development strategies that are systematic. That's not networking one client at a time, but that create channels, that create avenues and strategies. And prioritize those things that build a brand, things that build a community, things that strategically create a system for generating growth, rather than hoping that one or two people somehow through osmosis and personal networks are going to get something done. That can happen too, but that's tough to find. It's unsystematic. You can't grow a large firm like that. Yeah. So pick a strategy, stick with it, but go down to the basics. Who is accountable for growth? What are the targets? What are the clear definitions of our markets? What keeps these clients awake at night that we can help them with? What is it that you help with? If you can answer the basic questions in clear, clean, and concise language, you will grow. If you stick to the abstractions and you insist that everybody with a nice personality and more than $1 million assets under management should be your client, you will be exactly where most firms are these days, 2 to 3% organic growth.
Yeah. All right, thank you. And then for the other side of the audience here, which is the next generation most likely, what's the one skill that they should go to acquire right now, that they should focus on, honing in on, and just being the best at?
All skills kind of have value. I wouldn't say this skill is more important than that. It's a little bit like if you want to be a good basketball player, what's more important? To shoot three-pointers or shoot free throws or to defend? Like if you want to be a good basketball player, all of the above, as many of those as you can. But ultimately, you probably need to have some sense of your strengths and weaknesses, and you need to play to your strengths and also address your weaknesses in some ways. If I had to overgeneralize for most young professionals, I would say don't be afraid of growth. There's nothing scary about growth. There's nothing scary about bringing clients, particularly since about 60% of our leads, 60% of our new clients come to us from referrals from existing clients. This is not running around the streets of town with a billboard asking for someone to come to the office. This is the people who already trust you recommending their friends, their colleagues, their family to come and join you. If you're really good at service, you should be able to see those referrals. And business development should not be difficult because 60% of your growth is assisted. That's given to you by your existing clients. Your existing clients will also introduce you to the other sources of growth. They will introduce you to their community. They will introduce you to their CPAs and attorneys. They will introduce you to their colleagues. You just gotta be active. But probably one thing I would say to G2s is the more time you spend with people and the less time you spend with your computer or the equivalent thereof, the more you will find it easier to create opportunities and growth. Kind of embrace the fact that growth is one of the things you do. Ask yourself how you can participate in the growth process. Find a strategy that works for your personality, your skill set, your firm. There are many available, and then go for it. Learn how to score, and that will make you a great basketball player. Defense is a great skill to have, but put the ball in the basket, and I think you'll spend more time on the floor. There'll be more teams that want you to play, and also you'll find that the game is more fun that way. It's not just for the money and the prestige. I think you'll find that you have a more complete client relationship. And then you also feel more validated. That's the thing about business development. It gives you this sense of staying connected to the market, but also you know you're good at what you do because people keep validating and hiring you. If you're just sticking with existing clients, at least for me, there's always something in the back of my mind. Are they sticking with me because of inertia, or are they sticking with me because I'm doing a good job? If you're a good business developer, you don't dwell on that question. Often I hear the words imposter syndrome or something that young people suffer from. If you want to address that, then go to the marketplace and it will tell you exactly if you're any good at it or not. The scoreboard doesn't lie. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about business development. It gives you this strong connection with the marketplace that you know exactly what you're doing because you're constantly in front of the borders. You're constantly in front of the people that validate you.
Yeah, valid. And even the best are just continuing to hone in on those skills. You never get there, right? You need to keep working. Even if you think you're great at something, you can always be better, and you need to keep working on those skills. So what excites you about the future of our industry, just in general?
Most of the people, I mean, my God, even just reflecting all the people that I've met through the BlueSpring Growth Lab and all the professionals I've known for many, many years throughout the industry, the young professionals. There's kind of this legend of the aging industry that has a hard time attracting young people, and we don't, and intentionally using an old person's voice. At the end of the day, I'm actually very excited about the young people who are already here. The young people that literally, Graham, you and I are in the middle of a conference and they're right outside. I was just shaking hands and talking to them. They're incredibly charismatic, talented, good with clients. They have so many ideas and they have so many great intentions. It's very important to remember, they're not the curators of the museum. They're not just there to preserve the firms created by the founding generation. They have a ton of ideas about things they want to do themselves, places they want to grow to, and things that they want to achieve. And that excites me. I mean, watching and participating in what they're going to do with this industry and this group of clients and group of people that are part of it, I think is mesmerizing. The ideas are amazing, the energy is amazing, the talent is amazing, and you and I have the privilege to be part of it, to participate in it.
And it is a privilege, right?
Absolutely.
Financial advisors play an important role into this industry. They have an effect on people's longevity of their lives and what that looks like in the future, and it's amazing. But it can be lonely if you're an entrepreneur, and so I would just say, don't go it alone. There's others out there and you can learn from each other, and it's what we're doing here, right? We learn so much from Phillip and the Ensemble practice, and we're really grateful for that partnership in many ways, not just the Growth Lab, but also your G2 Academy.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the last place I want to make sure that we hit on a little bit, because we do leverage Ensemble for G2 Academy. Every single year we've had over 50 Next Gen go through that program, but that's not just meant for BlueSpring, it's meant for the whole industry. So if you just want to hit on that a little bit, because I think that's a good next step for individuals who are in the next generation and wanting to take it to the next level.
Absolutely. I mean, we keep asking, myself and my colleagues, my partner Brendan, my colleague Matt McGinnis, Kristen Woody as well. Those are the 4 professionals I talk to all the time. And all of us keep asking the question, what keeps our clients awake at night? What is it that they need? As they're building their firms and their enterprises, what is it that we can help with? How can we participate in this exciting process of industry growth? And participate constructively, really bring something to the table. This is what we realized is one of the missing pieces, is really the ability to create a structured program for business development, the Growth Lab, and also leadership and management training. As we said, kids grow together better. They learn from each other. And that's really the genesis of the G2 program, is bringing 50 aspiring leaders from across different organizations around the industry so that they learn together and learn from each other. Everything I know, and you are very nice to say that I know something, everything I know I've learned from my mentors, from my clients, from the people I've worked with, I've learned from you. And we've worked together for many, many years. Kind of that's the role of consultants, to be a little bit like the bees, fly from here to there and bring something with you. And that's really the idea behind the program. Bring 50 amazing people together, arm them with the business theory that's taught in the MBA schools. Very importantly, we're not accredited, we're not associated with any reputable educational institution. We just do it on our own. But we try to expose them to the theory, but more importantly, expose them to the practice. What happens in the real world when you manage people, when you lead people, when you make decisions that change people's lives and incomes and rent and grocery bills? How do you handle that responsibility? How do you handle the burden of leadership? And that's really what makes the program special. We've gone through 11 classes now. It's been more than 10 years now. We have been instrumental in the development of more than 400 professionals who now are leading advisory firms. Mm-hmm. And without name dropping, but we have CEOs and presidents of the top 100 advisory firms in the country that graduated from this program. We are incredibly grateful to have had them as participants in the program. They stay involved in our alumni network. It has become a community of aspiring leaders. And I'd like to say the future leaders of the industry are in this program today. And they're doing great. They're doing great not because of our role and theory and all the things that we try to contribute, mostly because they have so much energy, so much passion, so much talent. And that is especially true for the BlueSpring group as well. Like the entrepreneurship energy of that table is very palpable and visible. It's kind of one of the misconceptions in the industry that somehow as you go through capital events, you become less and less entrepreneurial. That's more of a choice than a foregone conclusion. It's up to you as you change ownership, how entrepreneurial or how stagnant you become. This is a group that wants to be entrepreneurs. They want to change, create, grow, develop. Those are the verbs they use, and it's exciting to work with that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here, Phillip. Thank
Very
you
much.
for your partnership, your friendship. Thank you for what you're doing for this industry, and we really look forward to seeing what else you're going to impart your wisdom on us so that we can all learn and get better at our craft and what we do.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Graham.
Thank you for joining the BlueSpring Out Loud podcast. We look forward to you joining next time at wherever you get your podcasts.